Tonight, you drift into a quieter corner of medieval England, where fortunes do exist, technically, though they tend to clink in very small amounts and often belong to someone else. The air settles around you like a wool cloak left too close to the fire, warm and faintly smoky. You step into the landscape as though stepping into a dream, slowly, gently, with the sense that nothing urgent is expected of you. Certainly not profit, but still you try. You breathe in the morning fog that slicks over the ground like a spilled mug of milk, and you hear the soft bleating of sheep somewhere behind you, as if they've been instructed to create the world's sleepiest soundtrack. A far-off rooster croaks half-heartedly, clearly regretting all of its life choices. A thin path opens before you, packed dirt, rutted, lined with wildflowers that look like they're also trying to wake up. And here you are, about to embark on what you think might be a grand financial adventure. A gentle warning: you probably won't make it through this day. Not because anything dramatic will happen, just because the pace is slow, the air is soft, and the story, well, it's comfortable. Like a blanket knitted by a grandmother who thinks you're looking thin. Before you drift too far, you hear a voice gently nudging your mind, reminding you ever so politely to like the video if this already feels cozy, subscribe if you'd like more midnight wanderings, and comment where in the world you're watching from, along with your local time, so the medieval villagers can pretend they understand what a time zone is. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You walk forward. Mud squelches under your shoes with the sound of dough being kneaded in slow motion. The village ahead looks as though someone took all the houses they could find and gently pressed them down like lumps of gingerbread. Thatch roofs sag. Stone walls lean. Smoke dribbles lazily from crooked chimneys. A dog naps proudly in the middle of the road, like it owns the place, which, to be fair, it might. You wander into the heart of the village, feeling a warm breeze curl around you like it knows you personally. Medieval England hums around you. The buzz of morning markets, the thunk of an axe splitting firewood, the clatter of pottery against pottery, the scent of ale brewing in someone's shed. Illegally, probably, which is always the best way ale is brewed. And you think, yes, this is where my fortune begins. Your first potential wealth opportunity greets you before you even enter the marketplace. A group of villagers rushing towards something. Well, rushing is a strong word. They're walking briskly, which in medieval time counts as sprinting. You follow them because following a group is usually easier than having your own ideas. Ahead, you see a wooden stage with a man standing on it, a bright red feather in his hat. He's holding a small box and speaking with the enthusiasm of someone who has had 3 too many cups of morning ale. This, apparently, is a merchant selling relics. Tiny fragments of bone, splinters of wood, supposed tears of saints captured in glass vials. The villagers watch, mesmerized. And you realize medieval England's hottest get-rich-quick scheme is selling religious relics. A major historical fact slips into your mind like a soft note. For centuries, relics were valuable items in England, believed to bring protection, prestige, and sometimes miraculous cures. Churches collected them, nobles purchased them, and merchants traveled long distances to sell them. Even though you're standing close enough to see that at least one of these holy bones suspiciously resembles a chicken wing, the villagers seem blissfully convinced. You consider entering the trade yourself. You imagine yourself strolling around Europe, picking up interesting sticks and announcing, "Behold, a saint once looked at this tree." You picture a robe, a dramatic pouch, maybe a trained dove for flair. You'd charge, modestly, just enough to be filthy rich. But a tiny whisper of doubt surfaces. Historians still debate whether most relic sellers were cynical scammers, true believers, or simply very good at improvising under pressure. For now, you enjoy watching the merchant's performance, Knowing this line of business is complicated. Also, you don't own a dove yet, so you move on. A woman selling wool smiles at you with exactly the amount of warmth you'd expect from someone who has spent her entire life surrounded by sheep. She points at the bundles beside her, soft curls of fleece in shades of cream and gray. This, she explains, is the backbone of English wealth. Wool, the country's golden resource. And here is your obscure cultural tidbit of the day. Medieval England exported so much wool that it was sometimes called the land built on sheep. In fact, the Lord Chancellor sat on a literal sack of wool, the woolsack, when advising the king. Yes, even the government was sitting on its assets very literally. You pick up a tuft of fleece and feel the lanolin coat your fingers. It's strangely comforting, like touching the world's softest sticky note. You think, I could do this. I could become a wool merchant. That seems stable, dependable, financially promising. Then you look at the sheep staring at you from the other side of the road. One of them blinks slowly, as if calculating the exact moment it will escape your future farm and ruin your profit margin. You sigh. You thank the wool woman. You step away. You wander deeper into the market where spices, fabrics, grains, hand-forged tools, and the occasional goose are laid out in shabby rows. The scent of bread drifts toward you like a warm invitation. You pass a blacksmith pounding metal with practiced ease, sparks floating upward like tiny fireflies. You pass children running with wooden hoops. You pass a monk quietly asking himself why he chose poverty as a lifestyle. And then you stop at a stall so peculiar that you feel the story tug you closer. An elderly man sits behind a table displaying rocks. Ordinary rocks. Round ones, flat ones, slightly shinier ones. Each carefully labeled with a handwritten sign. Healing stone. Prosperity stone. Bad luck removal stone. His beard is long enough to braid. His expression is as serene as someone who has figured out capitalism's softest loophole. You realize the man is selling hope. He smiles at you knowingly, as if saying, you don't actually need the stone, but the stone wants you. You walk on before accidentally buying 12. And this is how your morning unfolds. Meandering, gentle, quietly humorous. The village breathes lazily around you. A rooster caws again, determined yet still wheezy. Someone's bread burns in an oven, filling the air with the unmistakable scent of someone's day is ruined. You take it all in slowly, letting the medieval world wrap around you like a warm, slightly scratchy blanket. As you explore, you find that becoming rich in medieval England is less about strategy and more about rhythm. Slow steps, slower decisions, and the faint hope that the universe might drop a gold coin into your hand if you stand still long enough. Your fortune may not rise quickly, but the day is young, the story has barely begun, and your path forward is wide open. Muddy, yes, but open. And so you walk toward the next possibility, guided by the gentle hum of village life, the soft promise of opportunity, and the quiet conviction that somewhere in this medieval world, a lucrative moment is waiting just for you. Maybe. You continue walking through the village as the faint warmth of the morning settles against your face, the kind of warmth that suggests the sun might commit to shining today, but also might get distracted and wander off behind a cloud. Medieval England is like that, slightly indecisive, politely moody, the kind of place where weather is less a condition and more a personality trait. A horse plods by in front of you, slow and contemplative, as if it's also thinking about medieval investment opportunities. Its owner trudges beside it, leading the animal with a rope that has seen better decades. The man glances at you briefly, nods in that universal medieval expression of, I acknowledge your existence but will not emotionally commit to this interaction, and continues down the road. You wander toward the large timber-framed building at the center of the village. An alehouse, of course. Every village has one. Part bar, part community center, part medieval gossip headquarters. The sign hanging above the door shows a crude painting of a boar or possibly a dog or possibly the artist got bored halfway through. Hard to tell from here. Inside, the atmosphere wraps around you like warm linen pulled straight from a hearth. The air is dense with the scent of malt, wood smoke, and people who have not invented deodorant yet. A low hum of voices ripples through the room as villagers chat over mugs of ale that look suspiciously like breakfast. As you step inside, you hear the barkeep, a stout woman with arms like tree trunks and eyebrows that could probably lift a barrel by themselves, calling out deals. Ale for a penny, weak ale for half, water free, if you trust it. You note immediately, you could make money brewing ale, but only if you can resist drinking all your profits. The villagers here are dedicated customers, after all. And ale is safer than water, which is always promising from a business angle. If your product is literally less dangerous than the alternative, demand tends to remain steady. A quiet fact settles into your mind. Brewing ale was one of the most common ways medieval households, especially women, made extra money. A simple, steady source of income. No dramatic relics needed. No sheep to wrangle. Just patience, cleanish barrels, and the ability to ignore that one neighbor who complains that everything tastes too hoppy now. But as you watch a man fall asleep mid-sip, you feel that brewing may be too social, too chaotic, too full of people trying to pay with buttons or enthusiasm instead of actual coins. So you leave the alehouse and step into the street again. Just beyond the inn sits a rickety little shop you somehow missed the first time around. A wooden shingle hangs above the doorway, carved with the unmistakable symbol of the medieval power market. A pair of scales. A money changer's bench. A medieval bank, sort of. Inside, the air smells of parchment, beeswax, and ambition. The money changer, a wiry man with thin lips and the posture of someone who trusts absolutely no one, including his own reflection, glances up from his counting board. Coins of all types and origins lie scattered across the table. Silver pennies, clipped edges, foreign coins you don't recognize. He slides them around with the precision of someone rearranging his emotional boundaries. You watch as a villager approaches to exchange a handful of battered French coins, earned who knows where, for English pennies. The money changer weighs each coin carefully, very carefully, so carefully you wonder if he's trying to judge their moral worth as well. And just like that, realization hits you, you could get rich by becoming a medieval money changer. This was one of the most profitable professions in England. Dangerous, yes, because people occasionally accused money changers of being wizards or tax collectors, which were equally unpopular roles, but lucrative. The job required math, suspicion, and the ability to say no 99 times per hour. You could do that, except the money changer keeps squinting at you, like he's evaluating whether your face looks like someone who might counterfeit coins for a hobby. You decide to back out slowly, because even in a sleepy story, being accused of fraud would be disruptive to your relaxation. Outside, a soft breeze rolls through the street, gently tugging your sleeve as though guiding you away from financial crimes and towards something more wholesome. You stroll past a group of children playing a game with sticks and a wooden hoop. One child shouts that the hoop represents a great treasure chest, and another claims to be the richest knight in the kingdom, which seems like an exaggeration, given his muddy face and lack of horse. The game escalates until one child inevitably trips, and everyone collapses into grass and laughter. Then it dawns on you: storytelling. Not the modern kind with thumbnails and watch time analytics, but medieval storytelling. The kind where a traveling minstrel wanders from village to village, collecting coins, bread, and the occasional chicken in exchange for tales of faraway romances and improbable dragons. Traveling minstrels were surprisingly well paid compared to many villagers. And you do like talking, and walking, and exaggerating. You imagine yourself strumming a lute dramatically, telling stories about knights with impeccable hair. You'd be great. But then another fact slips into your mind, soft and apologetic. Minstrels also had to sing, often for hours and sometimes outside in the rain. And as you stand here, watching a drizzle start to mist over the rooftops, you realize this career path may be too moist for your tastes. So you wander on. A narrow lane leads out of the village into the fields, where long rows of flax sway in the breeze. A woman kneels among them, harvesting with practiced motions, her hands moving so steadily that they almost lull you into a nap on your feet. Flax, linen, cloth. It hits you. Cloth production was a massive industry in medieval England. If wool was king, then cloth was queen, and the two ruled the economy together like a power couple with complementary textures. You watch the woman work, her rhythm soft and constant, and wonder if this could be your path to wealth. Slow, quiet, steady. But then you notice her expression. Resigned, mildly exhausted, and with the 1,000-yard stare of someone whose hands have been sorting fibers since the moment she was born. You quietly tiptoe backwards, deciding cloth-making may not be your destiny. As you return toward the village square, a faint metallic jingling catches your ear. You look up. A merchant stands beside a cart filled with small, brightly painted wooden charms. Birds, horses, flowers, suns. He shakes one and smiles at a little girl who reaches out in awe. He explains proudly, "Lucky charms, hand-painted, guaranteed to bring fortune, health, and slightly better weather." The girl's mother buys one immediately. And there it is. A medieval truth. Trinket making was an actual profession, and a surprisingly successful one in bustling towns. People craved small, colorful things in a world filled mostly with shades of mud. But as you pick up one of the charms, you realize something important. Yours would look terrible. You know this without even trying. You put it back gently. Instead, your feet guide you toward the distant sound of hammers and the glow of the forge. The smithy stands open to the air, sparks shooting out in slow bursts like lazy fireflies. The blacksmith is enormous, the kind of enormous that looks effortless because he's been lifting iron his entire life. His hammer rises and falls steadily, producing a sound that vibrates in your chest. You watch him work, recognizing instantly that blacksmithing is one of the most respected, stable, and profitable medieval trades, especially for horseshoes, plow blades, and tools. But one glance at the glowing metal, the roaring fire, the soot-covered walls, and the sweat-soaked leather apron tells you everything you need to know. You are absolutely not built for that. You walk away before the heat melts your imaginary cloak. Across the road, you find a small, pleasant-smelling shop owned by an apothecary. Shelves line the walls, filled with jars of crushed herbs, dried flowers, oils, powders, and mysterious substances you definitely should not sniff directly. The apothecary stands behind the counter, sorting ingredients with calm precision. He greets you warmly and offers a small vial of something he calls sleeping draught, which frankly seems unnecessary given how soothing this entire day has been. As you browse the shelves, another fact settles in gently. Apothecaries were essential in medieval towns, some growing wealthy by selling remedies and natural medicines. But then you notice a jar labeled powder of dried beetles, and decide, with deep sincerity, that this career may be incompatible with your personal boundaries. You step out of the shop and pause, letting the quiet settle around you. The village hums. Children laugh. A dog barks lazily. Somewhere, someone drops a pot and sighs like it's the third time today. You meander toward the edge of town where a cluster of merchants are unloading goods from a slow-moving cart. Barrels of salt, bundles of imported cloth, crates of pottery, and one extremely irritable goose. Trade. Long-distance trade. Suddenly, it seems obvious you could become a medieval trader. Salt alone was worth a fortune. Cloth from Flanders? Even more. Spices? Astronomical. People traveled from port to port, town to town, buying low, selling high, collecting stories, surviving storms, and occasionally losing everything in a single bad crossing of the English Channel. But then you hear a merchant complaining loudly about the price of ship repairs, the cost of guards, the unpredictability of bandits, and the general fragility of medieval boats, which were basically wooden bathtubs with ambition. You nod politely and keep walking. Your day moves slowly, gently, drifting like smoke from a chimney. You pass hedges full of sparrows chirping softly. You pass an old man carving a spoon with painstaking focus. You pass an elderly woman weaving baskets whose patterns look like they could hypnotize you into napping on the spot. You notice the sky shift toward a softer blue, clouds rolling into formations that look like sheep gossiping quietly. And then you smell it. Money. No, wait. That's bread again. But the idea still stands, because medieval fortunes rarely appear in sudden dramatic flashes. Often they hide in quiet corners, small opportunities, slow accumulations. You pause near a tall wooden building with a small bell above the door. A milling house, a place where villagers bring their grain to be ground into flour. A place that charges a fee. A place that could make you rich. Mills were incredibly profitable, you recall calmly. Watermills, windmills, even handmills owned by lords. Milling monopolies meant coins flowing steadily into the pockets of whoever owned the building. You watch as the great wooden wheel turns, powered by the gentle rush of the stream. The sound, steady, repetitive, rhythmic, almost lulls you forward. The entire building hums with sleepy machinery. But then you also remember another fact. Millers were often accused of dishonesty. People claimed they skimmed flour, cheated weights, or took more than their share. Whether true or not, millers had a reputation roughly equivalent to that one neighbor who definitely waters their garden with gossip. You decide your conscience would keep you awake at night, which is not the goal of this video. So you move on. And just when you think you've run out of medieval wealth schemes, you notice a small house surrounded by a neat arrangement of beehives. Honey glows in jars stacked in the window, golden and soft. Beekeeping. Now that sounds peaceful. You approach the hives, watching the bees drift in and out like fuzzy, polite commuters. The beekeeper waves cheerfully, wearing far fewer protective layers than modern sensibilities would prefer. He explains that bees provide not just honey but wax, used for candles, seals, and sometimes as impromptu waterproofing. This could be your path. Slow, quiet, gentle, profitable. But then one bee bumps into your sleeve, clearly by accident, but firmly reminding you that this job involves cooperation with thousands of tiny, buzzing co-workers. You decide to keep looking, and so your day continues, flowing at a tranquil pace, each moment soft and unhurried, each possibility presenting itself like a lazy ripple on a stream. You realize, slowly and pleasantly, that wealth in medieval England isn't so much a destination as it is a gentle wandering across trades, ideas, and lives. No hurry, no rush, just slow discovery. And as the light shifts and the shadows lengthen across the fields, you take one more deep breath, letting the medieval air fill your lungs with its soft, smoky warmth. Your journey toward fortune continues. But for now, your steps slow, your mind softens, and the story waits quietly for the next moment to unfold. The afternoon settles over the village like a thick, woolen blanket, warm and soft, with just enough weight to make you want to sigh and sink a little deeper into the earth, or at least onto a conveniently placed bench. You wander down a narrow lane lined with low, leaning cottages, their timber frames gently creaking in the lazy breeze. Somewhere nearby, a dog snores so deeply it could probably be heard by the residents of the next village. And yet, in true medieval fashion, no one seems concerned. Life moves at its own quiet rhythm here, unaffected by urgency, by modern calendars, or by your desire to find your fortune. You pause beside a small garden where a woman is tending cabbages. The soil is dark, fragrant, and moist under her hands. She hums softly, a tune you do not recognize but instantly find comforting. You watch as she gently tucks the leaves back into place, like she's arranging a tiny green army ready to conquer the next season. And you think maybe wealth is just knowing where the soil is fertile and the patience to wait for the cabbage to grow. An interesting fact drifts into your mind as you watch. Medieval English peasants spent much of their time tending small gardens, not just for food but for herbs, medicinal plants, and a few decorative flowers. A thriving garden could mean the difference between famine and survival, sometimes even a little profit at the market. And while it is not the path to filthy riches, it is a reminder that small, steady care can quietly sustain a life. Nearby, a boy struggles to pull a cart of firewood. He is sweating, red-faced, and grumbling quietly about unfair physics, though he frames it politely with the language of the time. You wonder if he knows the value of his labor, or if he imagines, like you, that wealth might be easier elsewhere. As you watch, you think you could help him, or you could simply enjoy the comedic struggle. You choose the latter because you are here to absorb the slow pace, not to fix all the world's problems. A soft gust brushes past, carrying with it the faint smell of roasted grains from the bakery, sweetened subtly by the overripe apples someone has left on a windowsill. You follow the scent, letting it guide you like a gentle hand. You pass the bakery door, where a woman slides fresh loaves from the oven. Her hands are dusted with flour, and a small boy snatches a piece, earning a gentle slap on the wrist and a smile. This is the rhythm of everyday life. Small struggles, small joys, and the constant, quiet presence of work that matters more for survival than for glory. And here comes your first opportunity of the afternoon. The miller's wife, standing near the riverbank, invites you to watch as grain is poured into the mill. The wheel turns slowly, churning the water in a steady rhythm, each splash like a note in a lazy, hypnotic melody. Watching the machinery, you realize that owning or operating a mill, perhaps with a few clever tricks, could generate steady income. Millers often charged a fee to grind grain, quietly collecting wealth without the dramatic spectacle of a market or an alehouse. Historians still debate whether millers truly skimmed flour as often as villagers claimed, but the reputation alone might have made them wealthy without lifting a finger. You imagine yourself leaning over the millstone, pretending to be busy while coins quietly slip into your pocket. The thought is comforting. Moving away from the mill, you cross a bridge over the river. The water flows lazily, reflecting the sky like a silvery mirror, and a few ducks paddle by with slow, deliberate strokes. You pause to watch, and it strikes you how much money moves similarly. Slowly, quietly, sometimes unnoticed until it arrives at your feet. If only your medieval self knew how to intercept it before it flowed downstream. A soft laugh from the far side of the bridge draws your attention. Children are tossing small wooden boats into the river, racing them gently downstream. One boy leans over to push a boat that has gotten stuck and tips gently into the water himself. The others laugh, and the moment is so human, so ordinary, that you can't help but smile. Wealth here seems secondary. Life is primary. But still, you press on because you are on a quest for the slightly mythical combination of comfort and profit. Ahead, a blacksmith hammers on a horseshoe. Sparks drift upward in slow, lazy arcs. You watch, fascinated, realizing that skilled trades like this are opportunities if you have the patience and strength. Blacksmithing, however, requires more fire, sweat, and strength than you currently possess. You step back politely and allow the apprentice to continue. Your wealth may be found elsewhere. Nearby, an unusual sight catches your eye. A woman selling carved wooden toys, small horses, knights, and miniature castles. Children crowd around her table, exchanging coins with eager hands. And it strikes you, handcrafted goods, especially small, desirable items, can be profitable if you understand the market. This is a medieval form of what would now be called artisanal entrepreneurship. The work is delicate, steady, and creative, just enough to soothe the mind and satisfy a slow, deliberate pace. You pause by the toy seller, imagining yourself producing tiny replicas of your surroundings. Each cottage, each tree, each cart replicated in miniature for children who will never appreciate how carefully you measured the proportions. Still, the idea of steady profit warms you like a gentle hearth fire. You continue past the village square, where a traveling minstrel sets up near the fountain. He strums a lute with careful fingers, singing softly. Some villagers drop coins into his cap. Others simply listen, enjoying the subtle rhythms of the music against the sounds of daily life. And you realize that storytelling, song, and performance, though not as materially steady as other trades, offer another form of wealth: admiration, social capital, and occasional silver coins. You smile, imagining yourself slowly wandering from village to village, collecting stories and wealth alike, at a pace that never requires running. A group of monks passes by, carrying baskets of bread and cheese. One of them glances at you and nods, a subtle acknowledgement of your presence in their slow, deliberate world. Monks often managed lands, collected rents, and engaged in trade in subtle ways, and yet they did it quietly, without fanfare. Wealth in this world is rarely loud. It creeps in softly, like the shadows that lengthen over the village walls. You step into a quiet orchard, where apple trees sway gently in the breeze. The scent of ripening fruit is soft and sweet. You pick up a fallen apple and feel its weight, smooth and solid in your hand. Selling apples, preserving them, turning them into cider or vinegar. There are opportunities even in this humble orchard, if you have patience and know-how. And it occurs to you that many medieval fortunes were quietly built on what we now consider ordinary tasks. An obscure tidbit floats into your mind. Cider was often safer to drink than water, and in some regions, it was considered a necessity for daily life. A well-made cider could bring steady income to those who produced it. You take a bite of the apple, imagining the sweet potential of liquid gold flowing from similar fruits. As the sun drifts lower, casting a warm, amber glow over the village, you pause to take it all in. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys. Dogs stretch in the fading warmth. The faint sound of a flute drifts from somewhere along the lane, played by a boy who is probably imagining himself a master musician. And somewhere in this slow, deliberate rhythm of life, wealth waits. Not flashy, not immediate, but quiet, steady, and real. You realize your journey is far from over. The day has been gentle, the lessons soft, and the possibilities numerous. Money in medieval England is less about chasing and more about observing, participating, and choosing the path that aligns with patience, skill, and perhaps a touch of luck. You breathe deeply, feeling the warmth of the afternoon sun fade into the soft glow of evening. Shadows stretch across the cobblestones, lengthening slowly, like the final moments of a dream. And with each careful step, you prepare for the next stage of your journey, knowing that fortune will reveal itself gradually, softly, and always at its own measured pace. Evening arrives with the gentlest of touches, slipping across the village like a soft wool cloak draped over tired shoulders. The air cools, carrying the faint scent of bread ovens cooling and wood fires being stoked for supper. Villagers move at a slower pace, their shadows stretching lazily across the cobblestones. You wander again, absorbing the quiet rhythm and feeling, with an almost meditative clarity, that wealth in this era is rarely a storm of sudden fortune. It is a gentle, persistent wave. Near the church, a small crowd has gathered. A traveling merchant, his cart laden with rare spices and foreign fabrics, speaks softly but with careful flourish. He demonstrates the richness of cinnamon, the mystery of cloves, the subtle luxury of silk. Villagers press forward with coins in hand. You notice the gleam in their eyes, not for gold itself, but for access to what seems otherworldly. The power of perceived value, you muse. Here lies another path, importing rare goods, convincing the village that foreign is desirable, and collecting steady, if modest, wealth. A historical fact surfaces quietly in your thoughts. England's trade networks expanded significantly during the medieval period, importing spices, silk, and other goods from distant lands. Even small villages could participate indirectly in this flow of wealth through local markets and itinerant merchants. You imagine yourself learning the routes, storing goods, and gently encouraging admiration for foreign luxury, all without hurrying. You wander past the edge of the market, where a woman is dyeing wool. The vibrant colors of crimson, deep blue, and golden yellow rise from vats like miniature sunsets. Dyeing was both laborious and profitable. Cloth that looked rich commanded higher prices, and a skilled dyer could quietly build a modest fortune. You linger, watching the colors swirl in the water, hypnotized by the gentle movement. An obscure cultural tidbit emerges. In medieval England, specific colors were sometimes restricted to certain social classes. Wearing a forbidden hue could be seen as audacious or even illegal. Thus, dyed cloth had social as well as economic value. You chuckle softly, imagining yourself accidentally offending a lord with a purple scarf you never intended to wear. Continuing, you stumble upon a small tannery. The smell is pungent, thick, and undeniably medieval, but the process fascinates you. Hides are scraped, soaked, stretched, and dried methodically, each step producing a material that is in high demand. Leather, shoes, belts, armor, all require this humble, smelly starting point. Wealth could be made here if you could tolerate the odor. You take a careful step back, inhaling only lightly, and remind yourself that fortune often comes with minor sacrifices, sometimes in the form of unpleasant smells. Nearby, a scribe works quietly by candlelight in a small room. She copies manuscripts with painstaking care. The slow, deliberate strokes of ink on parchment are mesmerizing, and you realize that literacy, skill, and patience can translate directly into income. Monks and secular scribes alike earned their living through painstaking copying, sometimes for the church, sometimes for wealthy nobles. Historians still debate the extent to which scribes were fairly compensated, but the path is clear. Skill plus scarcity often equals steady income. You imagine yourself holding a quill, carefully shaping letters in perfect symmetry, earning coins one carefully inked word at a time. The sun sinks lower, and the village takes on a soft, golden glow. Lanterns flicker in windows, casting gentle light on stone walls and cobbled streets. Somewhere, a small bell tolls, marking the approach of evening prayer. You feel a rhythm in it, a quiet heartbeat in the life of this place. And finally, you wander past a small apothecary's garden tucked behind a stone wall. Herbs sway gently in the evening breeze: sage, rosemary, lavender. Some are for cooking, some for medicine, some for tea, and some for other, slightly less certain purposes. Apothecaries and herbalists could quietly generate income, selling remedies that were part practical, part faith, part mystery. As the evening shadows deepen, you pause and breathe. The village is quiet now. Dogs settle by doorways. Children yawn and curl into bed. Smoke drifts lazily from chimneys. The soft glow of firelight spills across windows, promising warmth, food, and a sense of continuity. And in this tranquil, measured pace, you understand that the pursuit of wealth in medieval England is not about flashy ventures, sudden windfalls, or dramatic gambles. It is about observation, patience, subtle skill, and the gentle accumulation of opportunity, quietly, softly, like sunlight stretching across a meadow. Your day winds down, the village hums gently around you, and you step forward, ready to continue your slow exploration, knowing that the final discoveries and the calm, quiet conclusion of this medieval journey are still ahead. Night falls softly over the village, folding the streets and cottages into a gentle shadow. The air is cooler now, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke, damp earth, and the lingering sweetness of apples and bread from earlier in the day. You walk slowly, letting each step fall naturally, unhurried, absorbing the subtle orchestra of the evening. A dog snoring somewhere behind a hedge, the distant clatter of a pot, the occasional call of an owl. Medieval England feels entirely different at this hour. More intimate, more secretive, more patient. You pause by the village green, where the last few stragglers linger, speaking softly and finishing chores. A woman gathers a few stray chickens, murmuring as she coaxes them into the pen. You watch her, noting the rhythm of her movements. Every small act, every simple motion of daily life, is part of the gentle flow of the village economy, the unseen, steady work that quietly sustains wealth. A historical fact surfaces quietly as you observe. Medieval villagers often relied on multiple small streams of income, combining farming, craft work, brewing, and small trade to survive and sometimes prosper. It's a delicate balance, a patchwork of effort and opportunity. You imagine yourself threading your way through these trades, finding the slow pulse of profit hidden in patience and observation. Ahead, near the glow of a lantern-lit window, a scribe dips her quill into ink, her face calm in the soft lamplight. Each careful stroke of the pen captures a fragment of knowledge or story that will outlast her life. You feel the weight of continuity, the gentle accumulation of human labor and artistry, quietly enduring. This is wealth of another kind, cultural, intangible, and almost sacred. You wander past a cart of firewood stacked neatly outside a cottage. The soft creak of timber settling in the cool night reminds you that even the simplest commodities, wood, grain, wool, could be profitable if managed wisely. Observing, planning, understanding the rhythms of the land and people. These are the slow crafts of wealth, requiring no flashy spectacle, only patience and attention. Nearby, the faint scent of beeswax leads you to the apothecary's garden. Lavender, Sage and chamomile release their calming aroma in the evening breeze. You imagine gathering herbs for remedies, mixing small quantities, and quietly selling them in the village market. The work is gentle, repetitive, yet profitable, an investment of time and care rather than sweat and fire. You notice a small, dimly lit alley where a craftsman carves intricate wooden figurines. Each piece is delicate, detailed, and painstakingly made. The children in the village will love them, and the adults will pay for them. You see now that wealth is often found in these small, meticulous efforts, repeated daily and offered thoughtfully. An obscure medieval tidbit drifts into your mind. Some medieval merchants even sold lucky charms to improve fortune, often alongside mundane goods like soap or flour. A little superstition could add surprisingly high value. You smile at the thought, imagining tiny charms lined neatly on a stall, each one a whisper of possibility. You pause near the river where the watermill turns slowly, the wheel creaking in a rhythm almost like a lullaby. The miller's work, like so many in the village, hums with quiet productivity. You realize that much of medieval wealth is built not on grand gestures or daring exploits but on consistency, reliability, and the patience to endure. Your steps lead you to a quiet orchard. The trees sway in the night breeze, leaves whispering secrets to one another. You pick up a fallen apple and roll it gently in your hand. You consider cider, vinegar, small trade, and the slow accumulation of coin through careful effort. The orchard is tranquil, productive, and generous, like the village itself. And finally, you make your way to the edge of the village, where the night sky stretches wide and deep. Stars begin to pierce the darkness, faintly twinkling like coins scattered across a black velvet cloth. The wind carries a gentle chill, brushing your cheeks, rustling the leaves, and reminding you that the world moves at its own pace. You are a part of it, walking slowly, watching closely, learning quietly. Here, in this soft darkness, you understand that wealth in medieval England is not about sudden windfalls, dramatic schemes, or reckless ambition. It is about small, deliberate choices made day by day, trades pursued with patience, skills honed quietly, opportunities observed and taken without haste. It is in the bakery, the mill, the apothecary, the orchard, the cart of charms, and even the stories told by minstrels. And as you stand beneath the stars, listening to the gentle rhythm of the village settling into sleep, you feel the soft satisfaction of discovery. Knowledge, patience, and observation are themselves a kind of quiet treasure, more enduring than coins. You breathe deeply, letting the cool night air fill your lungs, carrying the faint sense of wood smoke, earth, and distant orchards. The village hums softly around you, a gentle lullaby of life winding down. Dogs curl by doorways, lanterns flicker in windows, and the occasional distant laugh drifts through the night before fading. Every sound, every movement, seems deliberate, slow, and careful, as if time itself has taken a step back, settling comfortably into a softer rhythm. You walk toward the river where the watermill turns quietly, its wheel creaking softly, splashing gentle arcs into the calm surface. The motion is hypnotic, a quiet reassurance that life continues steadily, quietly, and with purpose. The stars above sprinkle the sky with pinpricks of silver light, their reflection rippling in the water as if the heavens themselves are winking slowly at you. A soft breeze rustles the leaves of the orchard nearby, carrying with it the faint aroma of ripening fruit. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the day melt away, replaced by the serene understanding that wealth, whether material, practical, or simply a knowledge of the world, is built slowly, carefully, one gentle step at a time. Your mind drifts, untethered, across cobbled streets, through quiet markets, past alehouses and apothecaries, and over fields and orchards. The people you pass today, the baker, the miller, the minstrels, the children, continue their lives with their own quiet rhythms, each step and task contributing to the calm, persistent pulse of medieval England. And as you inhale the soft night air one last time, you feel your own pulse slow, your thoughts settling into a comfortable, almost dreamlike cadence. The stars watch silently, the river whispers its lullaby, and the village sleeps. You are present, content, and gently cradled by the rhythm of a world that moves neither too fast nor too slow, but perfectly, gently, and entirely in its own time. Sleep, if it comes, will be soft and undisturbed, carrying you through the quiet, enduring heartbeat of medieval life.